Scusi, ha un momento per commentare l'accaduto?
Deep within the earth, hidden beneath ancient layers of rock and dust, lie secrets that defy the history we thought we knew. Among these enigmas, few have aroused as much astonishment and controversy as the discovery of human bones of colossal proportions remains that, if fully confirmed, would force us to rewrite entire chapters of our past. From remote mountain ranges in Asia to ancient burial mounds in North America, from sealed caves in South America to forgotten islands in the Pacific, reports have emerged of skeletons far exceeding the height of any modern human. Huge skulls, femurs of unusual length, jaws so large they could cover the face of an average adult, fragments of a puzzle that seems to point to a lineage of giant men. Let me take you back to a humid evening in 1577 on the coast of present-day Ecuador. Spanish captain Diego de Ordaz stands inside a torch-lit temple, while the local chieftain, trembling with reverence, unveils a sacred bundle wrapped in century-old cotton. As the cloth falls away, the soldiers gasp. Before them lies a single human ribcage so wide that 3 armored men can stand inside it shoulder to shoulder. The thigh bone resting beside it is longer than the tallest conquistador is tall. The chieftain recounts the ancient story. They came from the sunrise on rafts as large as your ships. Their eyes flashed like lightning. One of them could carry a canoe on his shoulders as we carry a basket. They built walls with stones heavier than 20 oxen. When they died, we kept their bones so our children would remember fear and respect. Ordaz orders the bones measured against his own body. The femur reaches from the ground to his chin, nearly 6 Spanish feet. He writes a 20-page report, seals it with red wax, and sends it to the viceroy in Lima. 468 years later, a Peruvian researcher named Renato Davila discovers the original manuscript in the Archive of the Indies in Seville. Every detail matches the oral traditions still told by the descendants of those same coastal tribes. But the bones, they vanished sometime between 1580 and 1600. The temple was burned during a later expedition, the official explanation taken by pirates. Yet identical temples in northern Peru and Chile and southern Colombia all tell the same story, and all lost their giant bones within decades of European contact. Coincidence? Or the first chapter in a 5-century-long disappearing act that continues to this very day?
Now cross the equator and travel north to the frozen winter of 1883 in a remote canyon near Lovelock, Nevada. A guano miner named John T. Reed swings his pickaxe into what he thinks is just another layer of bat droppings. Instead, the blade rings against something hard. He clears away centuries of dust and finds himself staring at a perfectly preserved human foot, still wearing a sandal woven from reeds, measuring 42 centimeters from heel to toe. Following the leg upward, he uncovers a complete skeleton crouched in a sitting position, knees drawn to chest. When the body is finally laid flat, it stretches 11 feet from crown to heel. The skull is so large that Reed's bowler hat fits inside it like a marble in a bowl. Red hair still clings to the scalp in copper strands. Local Paiute elders are summoned. They nod solemnly and recount the ancient war against the Site-Ka cannibal giants with flaming red hair who terrorized their ancestors until they were driven into this very cave and burned alive. The smoke from that final battle, they say, blackened the roof still visible today. Scientists from the University of California arrive. They crate 32 artifacts and 6 complete skeletons. The largest is photographed beside a 6-foot anthropologist. His head barely reaches the giant's waist. The San Francisco Chronicle runs the story on the front page for 3 consecutive days. Then the crates reach the Smithsonian. The file is created, numbered, and promptly sealed. In 1911, another excavation at the same site recovers another dozen giant mummies. Same procedure, crate ship silence. In 1931, a follow-up expedition returns to Lovelock Cave looking for the original specimens. The curator's reply is chilling. No such materials were ever received. Yet the original photographs, the newspaper clippings, the field notes of anthropologists L.L. Loud and M.R. Harrington all survive in university archives. They describe the same measurements, the same red hair, the same sandals too large for any modern basketball player. The bones simply walked out of history escorted by men in suits who understood that some truths are too large to display in glass cases. Let us linger in North America for a moment because between 1850 and 1920, this continent became an open-air museum of the impossible. In Moundville, Alabama, 1891, a 12-foot skeleton wearing copper armor is unearthed from a temple mound. The local paper notes that the breastplate alone weighs 87 pounds. In Chillicothe, Ohio, 1879, the famous Scioto giant is excavated 10 feet 2 inches with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, exactly as described in 2 Samuel 21:20 about the giants of Gath. In Dunleith, Illinois, 1892, a circle of 10 skeletons each over 9 feet, seated around a central altar containing a stone tablet inscribed with unknown characters. In Catalina Island, California, 1913, 36 skeletons averaging 8 feet with skulls that show deliberate cradleboard deformation, yet the leg bones are perfectly proportional to the height. In Cresco, Iowa, in 97, a 15-foot giant still wearing a copper crown. Every single one of these discoveries was reported in mainstream newspapers. The New York Times, Chicago Tribune, Scientific American, complete with names of doctors, judges, and university professors who took measurements. Every single one was eventually donated to the Smithsonian Institution. Every single file now returns the same answer: record does not exist. Yet the newspaper archives have never been purged. Microfilm reels in public libraries still show the photographs. Yellowed clippings still describe the copper crowns, the 6-fingered hands, the double rows of teeth. The paper trail is perfect. The physical trail ends at a loading dock in Washington, D.C. in the year 1918, after which the doors close and the lights go out. Now, cross an ocean and a continent to the Emerald Mountains of Rwanda, 1936. Dr. Patrick Charlier, a Belgian anthropologist with a reputation for meticulous documentation, follows a group of Batwa hunters to a hidden cave sealed by a rockfall. They pry away the stones and step into a chamber that has not seen sunlight for millennia. 6 complete skeletons lie in a perfect hexagon, heads toward the center. Each individual measures between 3.1 and 3.4 meters. The femurs are as thick as a man's calf. The teeth show wear patterns consistent with a diet of raw meat and roots. Charlier spends 3 weeks inside the cave taking 487 photographs, making plaster casts of every skull, and packing the originals in sawdust-lined crates. The crates are labeled Property of the Royal Museum for Central Africa Tervuren. They arrive in Belgium in January 1939. Then comes World War II. The museum is occupied first by the Germans, then by the Allies.
In 1958, a young curator named Jean-Pierre Vandenhout is cataloging wartime losses when he discovers a memo dated March 12, 1946, 6 oversized humanoid skeletons transferred to U.S. Army Medical Corps, Heidelberg, for nutritional studies. Vandenhout spends 20 years trying to trace the transfer. He finds the American officer who signed the receipt, now a retired colonel living in Virginia. The colonel remembers the crates. They were too big for the airplane cargo hold, he says. We sawed the long bones in half to make them fit. When asked where they went next, the colonel's voice drops to a whisper. Somewhere in Maryland. A warehouse with no name. After that, my security clearance wasn't high enough. The trail ends there, but the Batwa elders still sing the same song their grandfathers sang to Charlier. The giants sleep in the mountain, and when the mountain opens again, the world will tremble. The pattern is too perfect to be random. The script never changes. Discovery always by accident, always in a place where heavy machinery is moving earth for profit, where pipelines and highways and mines are devouring the crust of the planet. Act 2. Documentation. Local experts arrive, measure photographs, sometimes carbon date, sometimes extract DNA that no laboratory is ever allowed to publish. Act 3. Containment within hours or days. Men in unmarked vehicles appear, phones are confiscated. Journalists are warned, entire villages are sometimes evacuated under the pretext of national security. Act 4. Erasure. The site is bulldozed, flooded, concreted, or simply declared a military zone. The bones vanish into private collections, classified warehouses, or the deepest vaults of institutions that answer to no elected official and no public oversight. February 2002. Empty quarter, Saudi Arabia. A Saudi Aramco survey team cuts a new service road across a low ridge of limestone. The bulldozer blade lifts a human pelvis so large that the operator can stand inside it. Beside it lies a femur 1.58 meters long, longer than the tallest NBA player is tall. Digital cameras capture 23 images before the site supervisor realizes what they have. By sunset, 3 black helicopters land. Soldiers in sand-colored fatigues without insignia order every worker to surrender their memory cards. The pit is backfilled with 400 tons of concrete before midnight. The official report, leaked years later, lists the discovery as camel bones Pleistocene era. Yet the metadata on the surviving photographs shows the exact GPS coordinates, the exact date, and the exact scale. A standard hard hat placed beside the femur for size comparison looks like a bottle cap. March, Nagpur, India. A National Highways Authority crew is blasting bedrock for a new expressway when the explosion reveals a burial chamber sealed with granite slabs weighing 8 tons each. Inside lies a single individual whose skull measures 71 centimeters from chin to crown. The eye sockets are the size of oranges. The teeth are perfect, no cavities, no wear, suggesting a diet unknown to modern dentistry. The Archaeological Survey of India dispatches Dr. Arunima Sengupta, a skeletal biologist who has spent 15 years studying ancient DNA. She spends 9 days inside the chamber taking 3,000 photographs and extracting marrow samples for genetic analysis. On the 10th day, a convoy of military trucks arrives. The chamber is declared a sensitive border area, despite being 400 kilometers from any border. Dr. Sengupta is escorted to Delhi and offered a promotion on condition that she signs a 30-year non-disclosure agreement. She refuses. 3 weeks later, her laboratory at Banaras Hindu University is gutted by a mysterious fire. The granite slabs are dynamited. The highway is completed 6 months ahead of schedule.
August, Borjomi Gorge, Georgia. A flash flood exposes the entrance to a cave system that locals have avoided for generations. Inside, archaeologists find not 1 but 3 distinct layers of giant occupation. The lowest layer contains stone tools weighing up 42 kilograms each, axes that required hands the size of dinner plates to wield. Above it, a middle layer of copper weapons. The top layer holds 6 skeletons between 3.4 and 3.7 meters, laid to rest with their massive dogs' canine skeletons the size of bears. The Georgian Academy of Sciences announces the discovery on national television. For exactly 4 days, the world watches. Then Russia invades South Ossetia, 40 kilometers away. The cave is suddenly inside a military buffer zone. Concrete is poured.
The scientists are reassigned to safer projects. One of them, Dr. Nino Calandadze, smuggles out a single tooth molar 18 centimeters long. She keeps it in a bank vault in Tbilisi. In 2023, she finally allows a German laboratory to examine it. The enamel isotopes match human DNA, not animal. The root structure is identical to Homo sapiens. The size is not. July 2012, Mpumalanga, South Africa. A coal mine dragline bucket lifts a section of fossilized reef and drops a femur that cracks the reinforced concrete pad beneath it. The bone is 1.39 meters long, completely petrified, yet every muscle attachment, every nutrient foramen is textbook human. Paleontologist Dr. Birger du Plessis arrives with a team from the University of the Witwatersrand. They work for 72 hours straight, mapping the entire skeleton still half buried in 280-million-year-old rock, impossible by any conventional timeline. On the fourth day, a fleet of unmarked helicopters lands. Men in dark suits present paperwork signed by the Minister of Mineral Resources. The skeleton is airlifted in a refrigerated container. Dr. du Plessis is offered a research grant worth 42 million rand, 10 times his annual budget, on condition that he never speaks of the discovery again. He takes the money. The mine expands. The reef is obliterated. The only surviving evidence is a single photograph smuggled out by a worker who quit the next day. May 2015, Sacred Valley, Peru. A Quechua farmer named Marcelino Hananco is terracing a new field when his ox plow strikes stone. He digs by hand and uncovers a tomb containing 9 individuals whose average height when reconstructed is 3.1 meters. The skulls are elongated but not bound natural shape. The bones show no signs of acromegaly or any known gigantism disorder. The joints are perfect. The teeth are pristine. Brian Forrester is granted access for exactly 55 hours. He films 180 minutes of high-definition footage, takes 4,000 photographs, and extracts a tooth for independent DNA testing. The results come back in 2017, 97% Homo sapiens, 3% unknown sequences, not matching any known primate. Before he can publish, the Peruvian Ministry of Culture revokes his research permit. The tomb is filled with expanding foam. The footage is uploaded anyway. Within 6 hours, YouTube slaps it with an age-restricted label and removes it from all recommended feeds. Yet the file keeps resurfacing, downloaded and re-uploaded by people who refuse to let it die. October 2017, Zagros Mountains, Iran. A nomadic Bakhtiari shepherd follows his goats into a ravine and finds a skeleton half exposed by spring floods. The torso alone is 2.3 meters wide. The arms, when laid straight, span 4 meters from fingertip to fingertip. A team from the University of Tehran spends 11 days documenting every bone. They recover a bronze dagger 1.1 meters long, too heavy for any normal man to wield in battle. On the 12th day, Revolutionary Guard units arrive in force. The site is declared a strategic archaeological reserve. The bones are loaded onto a military helicopter. The scientists are flown to Tehran and held incommunicado for 3 weeks. When they are released, each carries a new passport with extra pages for future international conferences that will never happen. March 2020, Mindoro Island, Philippines. Typhoon debris clearance reveals a burial ground containing at least 14 oversized skeletons, ribs longer than machetes, skulls that dwarf basketballs. Local journalist Erwin Tulfo live streams for 21 minutes before the signal is jammed. Backup footage is smuggled out on a micro SD card hidden inside a tube of toothpaste. The military arrives at dusk. Every villager is ordered to surrender their phones. The burial ground is bulldozed before sunrise. Tulfo uploads the footage from a safe house in Quezon City. It reaches 14 million views before the entire channel is terminated for violating community guidelines. July 2023, Yakutia Russian Federation. A joint Russian-Japanese permafrost research team drills into a Pleistocene ice lens and breaks into a cavern preserved at -42 degrees Celsius. Inside stands a warrior in mammoth fur armor, 41 meters tall, frozen in a walking posture. His right hand still grips a jade-inlaid stone sword 2.8 meters long. His left hand holds a necklace of saber-toothed tiger teeth, each tooth the size of a human fist. High-definition drone footage captures every detail. Rosia 1 television broadcasts a 90-second segment. The anchor calls it the discovery of the millennium. 24 hours later, the segment is replaced with a cooking show. The cave coordinates are reclassified. The Japanese scientists are deported for visa irregularities. The Russian team members sign lifetime non-disclosure agreements in exchange for apartments in Moscow. One of them, Dr. Anastasia Volkov, secretly copies the drone footage onto a flash drive shaped like a lipstick tube. She mails it to a friend in Finland. The package never arrives. These are not anomalies. These are coordinates on a map that has been drawn for 500 years, always in the same ink, always signed by the same invisible hand. Why does the hand never tremble? Because 5 empires would crumble if the giants stood up again, and those empires have grown so vast, so intertwined, so dependent on the lie that they cannot survive even one crack of daylight. The empire of Darwinism, which insists that humans evolved slowly from stooped apes to modern height over millions of years, a single 5-meter skeleton with perfect proportions demolishes that timeline like a wrecking ball through drywall, forcing every textbook to be pulped overnight. Every professor who built a career on gradualism to face public disgrace. Every grant that funded human origins research to be returned in shame. Every museum diorama of hunched-over cavemen to be dismantled before schoolchildren who would ask the question no tenured academic dares to answer. The empire of secular academia, which has staked its reputation on the claim that all ancient texts are myth until proven otherwise. One authenticated giant bone forces every university to admit that Genesis may be the most accurate history book ever written, that Moses and Joshua were not poets but eyewitness reporters, that the spies in Numbers 13 really did feel like grasshoppers beside the sons of Anak, that the conquest of Canaan was not genocide but the final mopping up operation against the last pockets of Nephilim resistance, that David versus Goliath was not a fairy tale but a rematch 4 centuries after the flood. The empire of global finance, which measures progress in billions of barrels and trillions of tons. A lithium mine in Peru, a rare earth deposit in Georgia, a diamond pipe in Yakutia, an oil field in the empty quarter. Any one of these can be delayed for decades by a single archaeological find. Giants are bad for quarterly reports, catastrophic for stock prices, lethal to the careers of executives who promised shareholders uninterrupted extraction, devastating to pension funds that own the shares, and ultimately fatal to the illusion that infinite growth on a finite planet is possible, when the planet itself keeps coughing up evidence that it once belonged to beings far mightier than we. The empire of controlled narrative, which has convinced 8 billion people that truth is whatever the gatekeepers say it is. When people discover that their history has been edited in real time, they begin to ask what else has been edited. Elections that never quite added up, pandemics that appeared on cue, wars that enriched the same banks on both sides. Money created out of thin air and loaned at interest to generations, yet unborn, the very nature of reality, delivered through screens that now decide which videos are age-restricted and which voices are dangerous. And finally, the empire of darkness itself, which hates every reminder that the Bible was right, because every colossal bone is a fossilized sermon proclaiming that there was a time when the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that the Nephilim walked the earth, that a flood came to wipe them out, exactly as Genesis chapter 6 verse 4 states, and that the same God who judged them then is coming again to judge the final rebellion, that the days of Noah are returning with genetic manipulation and artificial wombs and transhuman promises that echo the very sin that brought the deluge in the first place. The same spiritual forces that moved Nimrod to build Babel, that inspired Pharaoh to defy Moses, that hardened Herod's heart against the infant king, that crucified the Son of God and then invented 1,000 philosophies to explain him away. still move today to bury the evidence that would send millions running back to the ark, crying out for the mercy that is only found in the one who crushed the serpent's head and rose again to rule the kingdoms of this world. Yet the ground itself refuses to stay silent, and the silence is breaking in 1,000 places at once. In Ecuador, the jungle reclaims the temples, but the stories grow louder, passed from grandfather to grandson in whispers that no censor can erase, carved into the living memory of a people who still measure doorways against giants who walked their coasts. In Nevada, the cave roof still bears the smoke marks of the final battle against the Ka black scars that no amount of tourism can whitewash, that no park ranger can explain away to the hikers who feel the air grow heavy when they step inside. In Rwanda, the Batwa children still sing about the mountain that will open again, their voices rising above the drone of helicopters that patrol the Virunga volcanoes, voices that carry farther than any radio signal the government can jam. In Saudi Arabia, satellite imagery still shows the perfect rectangle of concrete poured in a single night, a scar visible from orbit that no algorithm dares to blur, that commercial pilots still overfly and whisper about on private frequencies. In India, farmers plow around the spot where the highway suddenly dips, because the granite chamber is still there 30 feet below the asphalt, waiting for the day the road cracks and the truth spills out like buried sunlight onto a 6-lane freeway at rush hour. In Georgia, shepherds leave offerings at the concrete wall that was never on any map, small piles of bread and milk that disappear before dawn, taken by hands no one sees, guarded by dogs that refuse to cross the threshold. In South Africa, miners whisper about the reef that swallowed a fortune to protect a secret, their voices echoing in tunnels where the air itself feels heavy with unfinished judgment, where lights flicker and machines fail for no reason engineers can diagnose. In Peru, Quechua grandmothers teach their grandchildren to measure height against the ancient doorways that only giants could have entered, doorways that dwarf the tallest tourist and mock every official measurement, doorways that still stand after earthquakes that leveled modern cities. In Iran, Bakhtiari brides wear bronze daggers copied from the one that vanished into a helicopter, blades that flash in wedding photos as silent accusations against the sky that stole their ancestor, blades that will be passed to daughters who will one day ask why their great-grandmother cried on her wedding day. In the Philippines, fishermen paint red-haired giants on their boats to ward off typhoons, images that ride the waves like living memories. No navy can sink that glow under black light on moonless nights when the sea itself seems to remember.
In Yakutia, the permafrost continues to thaw faster than any climate model predicted, and every spring, another piece of mammoth fur armor washes into the Lena River, arid southward on currents that have not changed since the days of Noah, currents that deposit fragments on sandbars where children find them and hide them from teachers who would confiscate the impossible. The bones are patient. They have waited 4,000 years beneath ice and stone, beneath concrete, and lies beneath the weight of empires that thought they could outlast the truth. Empires that built their towers higher than Babel, only to watch them tremble when a single tooth or a single photograph escapes their grasp. They can wait a little longer, but not forever.
Because Psalm chapter 33 verse 16 still thunders across the centuries, no king is saved by the multitude of an army. A mighty man is not delivered by great strength. Because Ephesians chapter 6 verse 12 still exposes the real war. We do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, because Isaiah chapter 40 verse 8 still stands as the final verdict. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God stands forever. One day, the concrete will crack under the pressure of melting ice and rising faith, and the cracks will run like lightning across every hidden chamber from Nevada to Nagpur. One day, the vaults will open because the locks were never designed to withstand the return of the King who holds the keys of death and hell. One day, the frozen warriors will stand up again, not to conquer, but to testify before every tribe and tongue and nation that the Bible never lied, that the flood really happened, that the God who drowned the old world in water has preserved a remnant through fire, and that the same God who raised his Son from the dead is coming back to raise every buried giant as a witness in the final courtroom where no evidence can be suppressed. No file redacted, no witness silenced, no algorithm can bury the footage, no concrete can contain the shout that will echo from the ends of the earth when the stones themselves cry out. On that day, every knee will bow, every tongue will confess, and every empire that hid the truth will crumble like the walls of Jericho, before the shout of those who refuse to stay silent, before the trumpet that sounds not from human lips, but from the throne of the Lamb who was slain and who lives forever. Until then, keep watching the ground where the ice is thinning and the concrete is splitting, where farmers feel the plow shudder over buried chambers, and miners hear footsteps in tunnels that have been sealed for decades. Keep sharing the photographs before they vanish into digital black holes, before the servers are wiped and the accounts are terminated. Keep speaking the truth before they silence the voices with algorithms and threats, before the microphones go dead and the lights go out. The giants are not the scariest part of this story. The scariest part is how badly the world still wants them to stay buried, how desperately the powers of this age fight to keep humanity ignorant of its own past, how fiercely they rage against the light that is breaking through every crack, how frantically they pour more concrete even as the ice melts beneath their feet. Thank you for staying until the very last word, for letting these testimonies burn into your spirit, like brands that cannot be erased, for carrying this fire in jars of clay that no empire can shatter. If this shook you awake, do not let it sleep again. Share it on every platform, download it to every device. Mirror it on every server, seed it like contraband truth. In a world that criminalizes memory, whisper it in classrooms, preach it in pulpits, tattoo it on hearts that will not be silenced. Because every time this message reaches one more heart, another crack appears in the concrete, another vault door groans on its hinges, another frozen warrior shifts in his sleep, another child in Rwanda sings a little louder, another shepherd in Georgia leaves a larger offering. Another fisherman in Mindoro paints his giant a little redder. We will not be silenced. We will not forget. We will not stop digging. We will see you in the next upload when we go deeper still, when the ice gives way and the mountains themselves begin to speak, when the veil is torn from end to end and the dead in Christ rise first, followed by the living who have kept the faith. Until then, may the God who guided David's stone guide your steps across the crumbling concrete, your voice across the censored airwaves, your courage against the gates of hell that cannot prevail against the church he is building. The giants are coming back, and this time they bring the truth with them, and the truth himself leads the way, the Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, the one who was and who is to come, the Almighty. Heat.